Welcome to Pranic Talk TV. This is Elitam Alameen.
And Shana Dean.
Enjoy the show.
Welcome to Pranic Talk TV. I'm Shana Dean, and today we are talking with Jesse Tree of Zia Energetics Permaculture, and he is interested in natural living, herbs, Taoism, and also breatharianism. Welcome, Jesse.
Blessings, Shana. So glad to be here. I'm doing great, thank you.
Yay.
Had a lovely day.
Oh, so glad.
How are you today?
I'm wonderful. I just gave a Reiki session, so I feel ooey gooey, yummy, lovey, beautiful. So nice.
I call it beautiful.
It is. It's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
There's so many things I want to chat with you about today, and that I know that you want to chat about. So I want to start off because I know you're interested in breatharianism, and that's why we're together today. Can you tell me a little bit about what led you initially into this path, and where are you now along your journey?
Yeah, so for me, it's kind of an interesting story. I think my chronic activation happened shortly before 2012 because as a permaculturalist and someone who I was a foodie and interested in organics and healthy living, but I ate essentially a standard American diet, of meat and wheat and cheese primarily, and beer, and the usual kind of suspects of American living, and I started to have adverse health effects, finding out that I was gluten intolerant, etc. And I got it turned on through a multitude of sources to the raw food diet, and started exploring with that, and was having tremendous healing through raw food, nutrition. At the same time, with my inclination, I was beginning to practice Sungazing because I've been a Buddhist basically and meditator since I was about 18. And I was seeking to reactivate sort of that vibe in my life. So I began to sort of assert myself in the discipline of meditation and sun gazing that I'd heard of, as well as grounding. And so since that time, I've been gardening and hiking in the woods, gathering herbs and such barefoot, and continuing the practice of meditation and body movement, and working with the four elements of earth, wind, fire, and water. And so that's kind of the, sort of preface into my breatharianism. I'd heard about breatharianism through Ray Mayor, and that movie, In the Beginning There Was a Light, I think. Mm-hmm. And it totally piqued my interest right away. As you know, it's like people inclined to this path have to feel called to have the inspiration and inclination to actually go about doing it. So, because it's got to be something that you're inspired by, and not something that's like a punitive thing or coming from any kind of place of fear or lower vibration,
Absolutely.
So that kind of, got me leading, and I'd been starting practicing fasting, and, over time, and smoothies, tons of smoothies. I love smoothies and that whole liquid kind of nutrition, and I would use herbs and, what have you, Chinese tonic herbs and wild foods and plants in my raw food, concoctions. And that was like a whole wonderful play, and experience. But over time, my body just craved less and less, to at one point I was just getting 2 meals a day, and then it got to 1 meal a day, and it would be a big, huge, every time, I'd eat, I'd go down, I'd make a huge, awesome, raw, gourmet, delicious thing and just go to town, and so kind of live it up, and then I just felt it activating more and more, started dry fasting. And about 3 years ago, I took it upon myself with the eclipse to initiate myself into breatharianism partly through Elitam Melameen's teaching of sort of breatharianism for the common man. and through information I've been steadily watching about Ray Mayor and integration of breatharianism. And so yeah, I got inspired and so for like 3 years now, I've been intermittent dry fasting, 16 or more hours a day, and liquid, um, feasting the rest of my time, with, sort of occasional eating with family or for, sort of social connection, or, too much anxiety one day or what have you. But over time, I see that steadily decreasing to where now I practically, if it's thicker than juice, I'm not really that into it. And I'll have like seaweed for some salty, crunchy things, or a nibble of my kids' chips, or maybe some little thing they've made, just to be connected with them and, to experience. And, so that's partly what I want to share, talk about with today is, some, if we can get to it, there's a lot of ground we can cover naturally, but part of the way I see through Ellie Tom's teaching, how there's different stages in life that are appropriate for breatharianism, and or for different kinds of breatharian practice, let's say, and different levels of commitment for different people, and the whole thing of going about it slowly, gently, and maybe some herbs and practices, tips and tricks I could share with respect to that.
I love that. I love that so much, because this really is a process, and it's not something you can jump into. And depending on where you are in your life, it makes a huge difference on what level you're going to be on and what level you should be striving for to be realistic and loving and gentle with yourself. That's so key on this path. So
it's about making your life juicier and better and better. You never want to feel like you're taking something away from yourself. You want to just be feeling like you're expanding and growing and loving the vitality and the experience.
Right.
So,
and you call this lifestyle a cultivation of vitality, which I really like.
Yes. And, that's part of the way I understand it, is it's like stacking healing lifestyle practices. Fasting has been shown to have all these healing benefits clinically. Meditating has been shown to have all these healing benefits clinically. Various herbs and things. Juicing for cleansing the lymphatic system. Fasting for immunity, etc. You stack these things on top of each other, and then you get profound, like, energy and healing. So
that's such a beautiful way of looking at this path too, because you are just stacking and adding all these modalities, because that's what it is. It's a combination of everything to completely clear your blocks and tap you into your higher self and your higher power. It's beautiful.
Yes, and the whole emotional journey too. There's going to be like highs and lows and you have to be really connected to your emotional body through this practice. It's going to happen. You're going to, experience that anyways. And it's, to sort of dive into that and be ready and excited about that, because it just, it's been awesome.
Because it helps you move through it and heal a lot of the older emotional stuff. It really does.
Yeah, as you get upon midlife and stuff, and that's, what I see to be it too. Ellie Tom talked about, how there's the different stages of life that they sort of, allude to in the yogic disciplines of like your younger years where you're learning and you're growing into your, experiential years. And so it's good to be, you're building your physical body. It's good to be eating and trying things and like experiencing all the different stuff in life, but then you get to be, coming on your 40s and your 50s, and you have all this accumulation in your body. You have all this accumulation in your emotions, stuckness. And this is just ways, to move through that blockage, what I have experienced to be the most profound, tools for healing. I went through sort of depression in, college years, sort of that existential crisis time where you're trying to sort out your finances and who you are, what your ambitions and things are. And I was like, well, I like meditating, music, and philosophy, art. Like, how am I going to make a living? You know, and it's this whole thing of just holding to your heart is another thing I see in the breatharian practice too, because your heart is this giant electromagnetic dynamo that's even larger than your head, and actually is responsible for the functioning of all your or other organs. And you know, in Chinese medicine, they say it's the emperor of your being. And the first cells that form your heart. So your heart being first, and to get into this sense awareness and practice of being more a heart being instead of a head being, you know, that is analog.
I love that, a heart being. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the truth of who we are. And it's just getting your electromagnetic field stable. It's your integrity, you know, your personal and energetic integrity. And so, you know, it's, I think, a very apropos healing modality at this time. It's something that we shouldn't be looked at as, you know, pie in the sky, that we need practical tools for these times, you know. And so these are all things that we can stack on together to build energy. And I love this sort of Buddhist adage of, if we could make one being happy in this world, and that was ourselves, and everyone did that, we would just have world peace, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Not only that, our happiness really does affect everyone around us, you know. So it inspires everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to practice and stay in that vibration as a continuity is something that's part of our divine right, but it's something you have to claim through discipline and practice. And so, and to give yourself time and be gentle and take the years and enjoy. That's something that Elitom provided that was very helpful to my path, because I'm an Aries, I'm a quadruple Aries. So I have, you know, 4 planets in the house of Aries. So I'm really like goal driven and sort of like, you know, I can get too lasered in on all of that. And it's really more about the journey and than the destination, and, you know, the enjoyment along the way.
Yeah. What you find when you're on this path, that there is no destination, that the journey just continues and continues, and you just get better and more connected and more of your fullness. There's really no end. It's just a perpetual evolution of becoming, and it's so special. So I really do hope people are getting what you're saying, because you're such a beautiful message. You know, it is the journey, and to really embrace it with so much love and appreciation for yourself.
If you can love yourself, then you can genuinely reflect love in the world. I call it it's like the air in the air coming down when the cabin depressurizes in the plane. They always say, put it on yourself first, because pretty soon you're going to be of no help to anyone, floundering around and possibly dead. You know, it's important to take this care of oneself, you know, very, you know, to heart and very seriously, because, you know, to be loving to oneself is, you know, it takes, interestingly, a bit of exertion, you know, in these days, with the sort of karmic baggage and the, you know, sort of programming that we all have to sort of let go of and shed, you know, as we move forward in this time, because none of that stuff is going to be serving to us now, and we're going to have to be adaptive and be forward thinking, you know. And the big thing to me too, with respect, you know, to the message that I feel with respect to breatharianism, is this whole core wish in one's heart to, you know, do good in the world and to be of a positive, loving and healing influence. And I think that's something that's more natural to us, actually, in my practice with gardening and, you know, tending my family and tending myself. That feels infinitely better than, you know, the competition mind frame or the mind frame of, just me over everyone else. That's not what I'm trying to describe here. I'm trying to describe is getting and rooting yourself in a loving vibration of your own self that you can then share, and that energy builds. And so yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from with my experience and the way I view the experience. And as Elitam says, it's like, it's really the pranic opening and the breatharianism is a product of trying to develop this consciousness, a loving consciousness, and a consciousness that's energetically balanced, so you don't lose your energy to your foes. You don't lose your energy when you spread your seed without care and without that intention, to put that work in, and that's where I'm at now too, as my process is the householder years. So there's a level of breatharianism where I'm like perfectly happy right now to just do juices and be connected with my kids in this way with the fasting practice I have. I'm having amazing benefits. And if I go further, then great. But, I could do this for the rest of my life and have, amazing health. The true practice and goal is to open the heart.
Yeah. And that really is the foundation of this path. You really can't fast your way to the pranic consciousness. You really do have to step into exactly what you're talking about as a higher conscious, love-centered state. And that right there makes the whole journey, the whole process so much easier and natural, because this is our true essence,
Mm-hmm.
And,
and sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, you can speak.
Okay, I got a head full of thoughts and words. So I love to share. So, and that because it dovetails into, it just sparked a thought of, I wanted to, share a bit of what I understand about the astrology of the times, because, to sort of frame my background, I, studied permaculture. I studied herbalism through this school called the Evolutionary School of Herbalism, where we looked at the 4-element model of everything, earth, wind, fire, and water, that, I see to be key to the practice that we're in too, because you need to build the earth, the minerals, to have the electrolytes, to have the ionic charge of your body. You have to have the water to cleanse. We're 70% water, so we're more water beings than earth beings. We need water more than we need food. We're air beings. We need to breathe, and we need sun. We need energy and exercise, and that fire element. So that's also reflected in astrology and in the plants. And that's sort of, the study that I've been involved in for many years now, which has been very beautiful and instructive and interesting. But part of what's going on now, as I understand also with the greater astrology, is, we've been on this path, our planet going around the far end of the galaxy that's been known as the Kali Yuga, that is drew to an end essentially on 2012, and we're growing closer to the galactic center and the vibration of light and love, and that there's these streams coming in. The Schumann resonance of the planet has been changing over the last year or so, or beyond, where the base frequency of the Schumann resonance has been 7.83 hertz. We had recent activity up to 150 hertz. So the way I understand what's happening is light is coming in and washing all our light bodies and awakening all our consciousness. And that's why people for years now have been involved in yoga, meditation, fasting, plant-based diets, herbalism, etc., because it's a reawakening of the ancient healing path, and the potential in this time is this kind of split between love and fear. And so coming into the pranic path, coming into your heart, doing that self-work, being in the discipline of self-care is going to be paramount, I feel, going forward as a practical tool for the things to come, rather than being subjected to the things that will come to you through fear. And So that's like way cosmic crazy kind of stuff.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. In fact, what's happening astrologically is actually supporting the pranic path because of this beautiful lightness that's being more available. It's more available to us, and so this is a really nice time. And this is why this particular path is really spreading, and more people are interested in it. And they're kind of waking up, like, oh, I can do this. I can eat less. I can feel a higher vibration. I can have more love in my life because the energies around us cosmically are completely in support of it. So it's kind of a time for humanity to kind of rise up and step into our light beingness, that we naturally are. So.
Yes, yes, indeed. That's, as Ellie Tom says, the universe is user friendly, and that's my experience too. Literally, through this path of studying herbalism, we have been foraging now for like 10 years or more. And I've learned that the great majority of plants around you at any time are food or medicine. All of it is medicine if used appropriately by a skilled practitioner, but it's a matter of understanding, that's the other thing that's been beautiful, is seeing how we're all angels because we all have different astrological angles, and in balance, you are of benefit to the all, yourself and the all, and out of balance, you're of detriment. So it's stepping into your responsibility of your angle, of your own being, of your purpose that you decided to, come here to do, and taking that on and not backing down because you love yourself and you love the world.
Yes. I love that so much. Now, you mentioned about self-care, because this is a big part of the path and stepping into exactly what you're talking about, having an ongoing self-care practice so you can really nurture yourself. And I'm curious, what is your self-care practice for yourself?
Oh man, I have a lot. I would just do it all day long. I will. At some point I will. That will be all I do, is I will breathe prana and just care for my own loving heart, and that's what I do in the present. But so that comes to, my personal practice also, that I feel is a really helpful way to step into this, is this whole thing of earth, wind, fire, and water. So earth grounding, getting physically grounded to the earth. When you do, negative ions flow up through your feet, probiotic flow up through your feet. You get that earth element from the planet itself. It's healing. It's your mother. Touch her. Also, sacred rocks, like I wear my birthstone mala and like a ankh, copper.
That's really cool.
Things to help your energetic vibration and stabilize your energetic field. Tools, the earth stones can be helpful. Also, like Ellie Tom talks about, you got to eat your way to breatharianism. It's not like you just put tape over your mouth and you stop eating. That's not healthy. That's can be harsh. And it's good to go in a fasting and feeding cycle. Everything's a sine wave. So you fast and you refeed. You fast and you refeed, and you can stretch this out slowly, gently, until you can do more and more, and at your pace, and as feels good with the stars and your stresses, and etc. So, eating good food of the earth, growing or wildcrafting or getting organic foods, or we sell superfood juice powders. There's all manner of ways to get that earth nutrient, so that you need the cell salts, the 12 cell salts that correspond also to astrological signs. But if you burn everything down, any plant or any human or anything down to its finest powder, it will be these remaining salts, and that's what you're made of. And so to have the full functioning of your cells, you need all the proper minerals and everything. Your body will stabilize this over time, but this is part of this self-care function through earth. Through fasting practice and juicing and things, you can achieve this, to a great degree, with a wide variability of like what you consume, essentially. But so, and then the air practice, meditation, exercise, getting high negative ion air, like at the tops of mountains or near water, like the beach or the river. There's better air there, or even stepping outside versus inside. You're going to get a higher quality of air. Using plants in your house or air filters in your house to create better air around you. You can diffuse herbs into the air that are going to be helpful to calming your being and stuff. That's sort of a combination of earth and air and and water in a way. Waters, having the best waters possible. The living water in fruits and vegetables, is structured electrolyte. It's also high in biophotons, so that's sort of the energy, that fire element. So that can come from Sungazing, that can come from movement, that can come from the meditating as well. It's that, or resting, sleeping. That's a way to build that energy, that fire. So that's kind of what I'd be attentive to, is how I'm connecting with the four elements and trying to harmonize the four elements in my being and in my relationship with them. As one of the teachers I listen to says, we're all our own beings. Your parents birthed you, but you're more of a being of the four elements. You've been breathing air more and eating food more, etc. That's really your parents, and what you eat, you become. What you breathe, what you think, So having awareness practice with respect to all these aspects. I think of the consciousness as the ether aspect of the earth, wind, fire, water, ether, and there's different, across the world, but these are pretty much in every tradition, from Native American to Chinese traditional medicine to Ayurveda, Tibetan medicine, Western alchemical, thinking. So it's this whole harmonization that everything in creation wants to be in harmony, and so, every cell wants to be in equilibrium, and there's this resonant frequency happening on, a non-visible light level all the time. That tree out there I'm looking at right now is actually beaming, an electromagnetic vibration, as are you, as is the planet, as are the stars. Every plant you're in, everything your subtle energy body is in subtle conversation with. And so building that harmonic vibration, you can share it. It's like contagious. So is the negative vibration, so it's like choosing, on a conscious level with intentionality, what you want to become, and transform and transmute into,
Right.
And that's our nature is to always grow and flourish more,
Yeah, that is our nature. And our bodies, we're not just, Mother Earth isn't just our mother, right? More so than our parents, but our bodies are made of the same elements as Mother Earth. So when we harmonize and become more natural and in tune with that, we're in the same exact resonance with the earth. We really connect with that, and then we can be fed by that, and we can feed the earth with that. It's a connected, we become a connected organism. It's beautiful. So.
Yes, and that's been part of my practice too, is actually growing things and seeing how we can actually be a benefit to the earth, not a detriment to the earth, but actually make things better for ourselves and other beings. And something else that you mentioned piqued an idea as well, of this whole thing of the earth is mostly silica. It's a crystal, and so is your body, and it's piezoelectric, and you are also this energy being, this whole thing of the pranic path, and understanding that you're much more than just the dense architecture of, the earth element. You're part earth, part sky being, because you have your feet on the ground and your head up in the sky, and heaven is that which yeah, that kundalini energy, keeping up that kundalini energy into that conscious vibration to a greater and greater effect, you know. And yeah, it's lovely. It's beautiful. I just, you know, I just want to share it with everybody. It's kind of this thing when you're doing it, you feel a little bit odd maybe because just socially and everyone's having stuff and you're kind of used to it. And there's all these like interesting challenges that like sort of flex your soul and help you to grow and, you know, and to enjoy that is like a great pleasure, you know.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned challenges, and I don't want to say this is a challenge, but there's definitely different stages of life, right? And there's certain stages that lend itself to breatharianism much more easily, right? And you're in the household stage right now. So how is that for you? Because I know a lot of people right now, they have kids at home and they want to do this. You know, how are you able to balance the home life and the little stresses that happen, all of that with your path?
Part of it is, I think, my the stars I'm blessed with. Just my intentionality has always been extreme. Anything I want, I will make happen. You know, that's been it. Because I mean, my family even like all eats meat and stuff. Still, like they're primarily plant-based and stuff. But that's another thing I've recognized. You know, through this is that, you know, though I definitely prescribe a you know, as much as possible, liquid, you know, plant diet, you know, I think that's the most healthy actually across the board. But I realize there's people in different stages in their path with respect to where they are in life, their particular dosha or, you know, alchemical combination of earth, wind, fire, and water, their particular challenges, health challenges or otherwise. And that, you know, this isn't about dogmatism. This is about moving more and more towards health to a greater and greater and greater effect and being like, where's the roof? Oh, wait, there isn't one, you know? And the thoughts of longevity, great longevity and, you know, growing in your wisdom and in your experience and like having a long and fun, full life has always been something, I don't know. I used to dream about when I was a kid, like being really strong and like, you know, living for a long time and like the still dream and dream becoming reality evermore. So.
Well, what advice would you have for a householder?
So yeah, with respect to that, it's just a matter of like be forgiving with yourself and be forgiving with your family primarily. You know, it's about your relationships, and this is something you do for you. You're not doing it for anyone else, and you don't need to push it on anyone else. That's something else I see with the sort of vegan community. It's so dear to my heart because it's part of this stepping in my mind, to ahimsa or nonviolent, you know, practice as a way toward this path. And I think it is essential. But it's this thing of honoring their being and their soul purpose and their what they mean to do in this life and not being judgmental, you know, in it. And that comes through. I'm blessed by a very wise and forgiving wife. Primarily, it's been my blessing. She does, you know, she does so much of the legwork, and that's another thing that I think is part of the honoring is honoring the feminine, you know, sort of vibration in a greater way, because we're moving into that also astrologically of Wu Wei. They talk about Wu Wei and Taoism of like just letting. How many times do you go to make something better and you make things worse? You know,
right.
You know, just relax into what's happening and allow it to be. Just allow, and that's the feminine. Allow, nurture, just, you know, give love to and let it become. You know, so that I see is a big piece of what we're all gonna, you know, need to, you know, relax into, and we'll reap benefits. It'll be, you know, it's that whole thing of like the harvest season almost. You know, we went through the hard part. You know, now I see it as a time, you know, for going back into our greater selves and our becoming and being more natural and loving to ourselves and our world. You know, it's the opportunity that this virus has presented to us is like, what's our health like? Where is our food supply lines? You know, what is the quality of, you know, that food and our health care, you know, and, you know, the environmental consideration, you know, of how it came to be. This like cities tend towards squalor. It's not something that's intended, but when you get a bunch of people together they make a big mess. Just have your family over, you know, all 10 of them for a weekend. And so it's nothing. And we used to have everything be biodegradable. I don't think we'll ever get done, you know, littering, essentially, that we should make things biodegradable, because for millions of years, a banana peel, you know, apple core, you know, and so it's, you know, kind of moving back into that realm, I think, of becoming life cultivationist. That's something that's dear to me, a Taoist path of like cultivating the life of around you actively, you know, as a way to, you know, benefit the larger world. And, you know, engaging with the natural world in any way. You know, you can grow, you know, some kale in a pot in your apartment, you know, and tend for that living thing, and then like enjoy its, you know, health benefits, and have this relationship, you know, that builds, I think, more and more. So.
Nice, nice. Thank you. And you've mentioned Taoism a few times. Let's go on a little bit about that. So I know you're interested in the Taoist alchemical roots that pertain to breatharianism.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you intertwining that?
Well, it's just part of my sort of evolving spirituality that, you know, began as a youth when I started to, after exploring with, you know, plant vision medicine, I got into, you know, Taoism and Buddhism, and started, you know, working with breath work. And there was just stories of the ancient adepts who would live in the mountains and eat nothing but, you know, tonic Chinese herbs, and like practice their mastery. And it just like sparked my imagination. You know, I just was like, yeah, that's what I want. That sounds cool.
That's right up your alley too, because you love to meditate, you love herbs, the whole thing just comes together.
Yeah, that's, you know, that's, for me, it's just about creating the best life ever. Like, I really think that this is a heaven realm, and because we are intentional creators and gods, and stepping into that, you know, as Elitom talks about, like, we are gods. Like, let's live that like fully, because we can intentionally make this world a heaven with our you know, our focus and our intention.
Excellent, excellent. Now you've mentioned Ellie Tom a few times. You've met Ellie Tom, right?
Yes, I was blessed. I felt so blessed because, you know, I'm out in northern New Mexico, out in the boondocks, you know, in a small agricultural village of less than 10,000 people, you know, and, you know, I've been following his teaching for a while and kind of been in communication with him, and I invited him out, and he came. He's just like, the energy told me to come, and I was like, wow. You know, which was great. And so we spent, you know, I think it was like 10 days together, and just like hiked and talked. And we had a small group. You know, I was hoping to bring a larger group for him, but, you know, I was also expecting to do a lot of stuff that I realized now I could have pared down. You know, he guided me in that way too. You know, he's very, he doesn't mince words. He's very kind of pragmatic, and like, you know, gets to the point. And that's partly what I love about him.
Yeah.
So, that was really cool, because, you know, I mean, he just, you know, he's a powerful personality. You know, he sort of has had enough sort of experience, real world experience, that is palpable, you know, in terms of like, I kind of connected in with him on that vibration of like breatharianism for the common man, because I was like, I want to be breatharian, and I, you know, live out in the country, and I have like this big family, and I don't know how that can happen. So I needed, you know, an avenue. And, you know, and him having like gone through the military, gone through, you know, being sort of a preacher or what have you, through, you know, exploring all kinds of disciplines, you know, and studying and everything, and his amazing, you know, presence and ability to live this path has been, you know, a great boon, and really propelled me forward, you know, just having that meeting and spending that time with him. And so I really appreciate my mentors and my teachers. Ellie Tom, I'm sure you'll see this. Thank you, my dear teacher.
Yeah.
Appreciate your spirit.
Yeah. What would you say is the greatest thing or the most pivotal thing that you learned, either from him or just along this particular journey in general?
For him, definitely it was this thing of take it easy on yourself. You can, get yourself all hard, nosed on the path and hard on yourself. And this taking it easy of it is going to allow your path to progress more. It's that whole allowing phase of like, okay, I did the, 4-day dry fast. Like, go ahead and like go to town, like do what you need to do now. Like, don't try to press it further. Those kinds of things. I wouldn't take it to that degree all the time, but it was just this whole thing of like, just get up again, stay consistent, and you will ripen and develop in this practice, So that was the most helpful. That and his just kind of, he kind of holds the vibration like a coach and in a disciplined way, so that it's kind of unwavering, and comes from this sense of science combined with esoteric science. Like he doesn't put anything out there that he hasn't researched also the science on when he speaks, and he's mindful of that, and that kind of attentiveness to your words and your deeds and your practice, your personal self-care practice, and then your sharing and showing up in the world, and doing something, has that's helped me, step into it more.
Yeah. Well, having integrity is a really important part of the spiritual path. And especially when you're running these higher energies, when you become more on the pranic consciousness, frequency of love, your energy, you become more magnetic, especially if you're doing more Qigong or Reiki or meditation or visualizations, you're going to draw things to you, right? And you want to make sure that you're very, very, you have a lot of integrity, and that you stay really hold to the truth of yourself and for everyone else, and that you want the best, not just for yourself, but for everyone else,
You become more electric, and so it's really important to stay grounded, essentially.
Yeah. Stay grounded and stay optimistic, positive and loving, and in those higher states of being like loving, gratitude, joy, and like you said, this is a heaven on earth. We just haven't fully tapped into it and fully embraced it because we have a lot of blocks and other things going on.
Yeah, it's our, that is that whole thing of like stepping into it. It's a responsibility. It's not necessarily easy, It actually is, you're going to have to exert yourself and put forth work, but like all things good, you're going to reap benefits from putting that energy in, doing that,
Oh, yeah. So tell us, what benefits do you experience on this path?
Well, I mean, I'm 43, I feel like I have a body of an 18-year-old. All day long in the farm, I have 3 teenagers that I'm keeping up with all the time, I run my own business. It's like, I have energy for all of this. Whereas in prior years, I was significantly impacted by my energy and well-being, I have the positivity now, that vibration, that cultivation, that vibration, positivity, and what you focus upon, has really, increased like my mental wellness ever more, and my sense of like integrity and mental stability and strength, and that's what I see with it all. Is it's just this divine right that belongs to all of us. Really, it's every person. The pranic path isn't for just special people. This is something everyone already is, that you can develop ever more.
Absolutely, yeah, I love that. Now, you have mentioned, now I know you're very interested in herbs, especially with what you do for a living and you're into gardening. What herbs would you recommend for someone who's transitioning or someone who's on this path?
Awesome. Excellent question. I'm glad you asked me, because I love to sing the songs of the herbs and the plants. So one of my, there's so many. It's really this interesting thing if you can tap into the air element, plants and the whole dynamic, and there's different kinds for different things. But I really like working with tonic herbs, especially if I'm suggesting plants to a wide, array of people, because tonic plants tend to only build and strengthen that particular organ system. So there are some respiratory tonics, for instance, to build that air element. So things like elderberry, or cordyceps mushrooms, or let's see, mullein, all these things will just soothe or expel mucus, restore the cilia or the alveoli, of your lungs, from damage from whatever it is, toxins in the environment, smog, cigarette smoke, whatever it is, you can use these kinds of herbs, to cultivate that air element. Also, you can do like the earth element. So herbs like, comfrey or nettle or alfalfa, or, green juices, or, wheatgrass, dark leafy things, are going to be high in mineral. They're going to be chelating. So they'll take out things like heavy metals, that earth element that you don't want in you, and nettles and things like that are also sort of adaptogenic. This whole thing of tonic herbs are adaptogenic, so they'll bring your immune system up if it's low, or down in the case of like autoimmunity, for certain herbs. So you could use herbs for immunity right now, like all the medicinal mushrooms are great for that, particularly reishi or artist conch. And that gets into also with the mushrooms. I think mushrooms is a good thing to employ. There's a lot of debate about that sort of in the community, but they're very much like nerves. And there's mushrooms like lion's mane, for instance, or herbs like milky oats that actually regrow nerves and neurons that have been fried and damaged from. And that's the thing, is most of our mind is this nervous system that runs through our whole body. It's not just in our head, it goes out to the periphery of the whole system. And so when you're overstressed, this, burns out the nerves, and that's that feeling of burnout. So you can use these herbs to regrow essentially the wires that the electricity of the pranic body kind of flows through. So that's one that I'm really fond of, lion's mane and milky oats, or other nervines like, any of the mint family, lavender, lemon balm, so many. Those are all nervine plants that are like soothing too in these times where everyone's nervous and anxious. You can utilize nervine herbs, with respect to fire or energy, once again, those nutritive herbs, and juicing and stuff that will help the cell get more electric. But you can also use things like pine pollen for energy rather than something like coffee, because pine pollen is actually balancing to the endocrine system, which is kind of disrupted these days by a large amount of phytoestrogens and xenoestrogens that we're exposed to. But that will give you natural energy.
I've heard of pine pollen before.
Oh yeah, it's a great herb. It's a complete food, actually, all in itself. And all of those things that have terpenes that are like the mints or pine needle, or even, things like cannabis, those all are respiratory and digestive medicine. So this thing of, and you could use herbs like ginger and things like that for the gut, probiotic, things like that for the gut, to heal the root of your, kundalini being and your physical being, so you get better absorption and all these things, and herbs that will help with digestion and everything, that fire, agni of digestion. So there's herbs to build or work with daily, like that, like ginger, turmeric, or, so I make chais. Like I'm on this whole path of tea as a liquidarian. I'll drink like a half gallon or more, or a gallon of chai, that I make myself with like medicinal mushrooms.
Oh, that sounds great. Sounds like delicious medicine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. You can play with it the whole way long, in the raw food phase, we made all kinds of pizzas and like, you know, just everything. I drool about it still, even though like I have no, like, it doesn't actually sound good anymore to like, I still like think about, wow, so much good stuff.
I understand.
You know?
You can have a fond appreciation for it, yeah, and not
Yeah,
physically crave it, yeah.
yeah, it's kind of weird. It's like new, you know, experiences it in full. It's like where you're just like, yeah, I just like making it now, smelling it. That's kind of, as a family man, you asked earlier, you know, that's kind of the vibration that I've got into. It's just like get into appreciation of just like putting your loving energy into the food and being excited about what you're creating, you know. So,
Yeah.
you know.
I think it's really important too, because I think some folks out there might be looking at food in a negative way, or they're drawn to the breatharian path because they have a lot of food sensitivities and there's like not a healthy or loving relationship with food, you know? So I think it's about loving the food and putting your love into it and being really mindful of how your body responds to it. But
Oh, definitely. That's a huge thing that I learned is like, more than anything, get into this sense meditation with your body and how you feel when you eat things or don't eat things, you know, different practices, and really get like how you feel matters. That's another thing with this pronoia. Universe is conspiring in your favorite thing. Is like your body and the universe around you and the plants and everything actually wants you to be in wellness and wholeness,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So just dialing into it as a meditation, what that is for you on an individual basis, you know.
And being so centered with yourself that you can feel the energy of everything. I don't know if you've ever like held a plant or held a food or a beverage or a supplement, and you can just feel if it resonates and whether you actually want it or not. You know, because your mouth might say, oh, I want this flavor. And then you hold it and you're like, no, it just doesn't feel right. You know, you put it back. Have you ever done that?
That is a beautiful like example of something that we've experienced and that we try to share in our herbalism classes when we're wildcrafting and showing people to forage. Is like each of us is this very sensitive bioelectrical, you know, chemical laboratory, and our sense of taste and smell can tell you right away, you know, if something's good for you or not good for you. And you can actually get healing benefit from the plants without even imbibing, just being near them. Their energy frequency can, like how many times you sit under a tree and then just enjoy the, you know, the vibe, you know. That's a great practice. It's great fun, you know. And you can get the healing just from the plants around you, but trying them too, you know, and just tasting them and feeling their, you know, energy and what their flavor is, and identifying those 5 flavors that are pungency, which is like hot, you know, think chili or garlic or, you know, ginger. Sweet, salty, that's like what Americans mostly know, which is like diabetes or hypertension, you know.
Yeah.
And then
That's
then
funny.
sour.
It tastes like diabetes, yeah. Right. Salt tastes like high blood pressure, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we crave. It's that whole thing of like high energy grounding, you know. So we'll go back and forth,
Yeah.
you know.
No, I
And
appreciate that because I'm a trained raw food chef. So in chef school, I taught how to balance the 5 flavors in everything you make, right? And it's the same thing, you know, sweet, salty, pungent, sour,
yes, and bitter.
bitter, right?
Yeah. And if you get all 5 flavors in your meal, you get better just absorption and digestion and everything, you know. Or just explore with them. You know, like the bitter, there's a whole path in herbalism of the bitters, and they can help you kind of take the bitter things in life, you know, with, you know, learning to take that bit of discomfort. That's something else with the pranic path of fasting. Like, you know, it's like you get past the discomfort and then it's not that bad, you know.
Oh, that's really deep. You know, well, I guess I have thought of it from time to time, but now that we're talking about it, it just brings it up. You know, if you're craving sweetness, you're probably wanting more sweetness in your life, right?
Totally.
So this is fascinating. So I'm curious because I realize that this can go on and on. This is a very deep and awesome conversation. So if anybody wants to learn more, dive in more with this, with you, do you offer personal coaching with herbs and things like that?
I do offer personal coaching, you know, and personal consultation, you know, and try to do it on an individual basis of like trying to appreciate where everyone's coming from, right where they're at, you know, and their dosha type, their, you know, habits, you know, and what they're seeking to do, you know, with their health. So yeah, I definitely offer that, and I'm glad to be of service to my community in this time in that way, you know, you know, other than that, you know, we offer some herbal products via Etsy. Some of the herbs I talked about are available on there. You can just look up Zia Herbs on Etsy, or check out my website, which is ziapermaculture.com, and there's a link there. And then we have a juice fasting program, which is really a beautiful protocol that with this company we've been working with, and they have all these manner of juice powders and things. And, you know, that's another thing we could probably talk about for an hour, is just juicing and the benefits of juicing, and how, you know, just having that more access to the cell, because it's, you know, made so tiny, your body can just uptake that nutrient, and the water that washes the toxicity out, you know, and totally to, you know, reinvigorate the whole body. There's this whole benefit for pranic activation through juicing.
Yeah.
So we offer that stuff too. And yeah, and gardening and permaculture design, we love to heal the earth as well, have that whole cycle connect, you know. And I feel like this is how we're going to regenerate our communities. We have to get into a vibration of creating abundance, regenerative thinking and practice, you know, with, you know, our money, with our land practice, with our health, and with our families, you know, and communities. So that's my mission. So if I can help in any way on those tips, I'd love to be of service to the greatest degree possible to the all.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful service, and you have such great energy, and I love your website. It also has really great energy. It just pulls you in, and everything you do, I love how you're connected with the Taoism and with the meditation and the Buddhism and the herbs and the prana and all of that. It's a beautiful flow and combination of everything. You're such a lighthouse for the world, you know?
Oh, thank you, Shana. That's very kind of you to say. That's my goal of effort. I feel like I've been training for 20 years for this time to be, you know, of service in this time, and I'm ripe for it and ready.
Yeah,
so
you are. Yeah. And I want to celebrate where you are right now in your process, because I love how happy you are and how connected and grounded you are with where you are. You know what I mean? On the path. There's no apology. There's no, oh, I wish I was doing this. It's no, I'm just loving right where I am in this process right now. And for me, I know you'll develop even more, right? But you're just really enjoying where you are in this moment. I love that.
High or low, like we came to this dimension to like we're coming from the angelic realms. It's easy there. We're like hanging out in a hot tub of light, you know.
Well, a hot tub of light. Oh, I like that.
After a while, we're like, okay, I'm bored. I'm gonna go do some work or some creation, you know. We get down there and we get busy here in this plane and make things happen, you know. So it's fun.
Oh, I just love it. Well, we're going to close because it's been about an hour now, but I know we could just keep going and going and going. And I suspect we'll have another talk in the future, because I think it would be really fun to talk about the juicing. I'm a huge fan of juicing. I did it for many years before I even discovered about breatharianism, right? And it set the stage for where I am now. So I'm a huge fan. And I love the work that you're doing with the herbs and the plants and Mother Earth and all of that. And I really want to support your work. So we will link your website underneath this video. And if anyone is interested in reaching you, we will also offer your contact information. And thank you so much for coming today.
Yes, so nice to meet with you and, you know, connect in this way. I love, you know, this burgeoning breatharian community and seeing us evolve in this way through intention. And I appreciate your spirit and activity in that way too.
Thank you. Okay, well, goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We wish you so much love and peace and happiness and earthiness and groundedness and all of it, abundance.
Yes, that's our divine right. Blessings.
That's our divine right. That's the truth. Okay. Bye, everybody.
All right, you
you.